For those of you who have been around the channel for a while, you might remember the Honda K24 based V8 engine that we covered about a year or two ago. And that comes from Neutron engines, and I spoke directly with Craig, who is the madman behind all of it. And since then, custom engines really haven't caught my eye. There hasn't been anything particularly interesting that I read about or saw or even wanted to make a video about. And that was until I saw the Synergy V8 and more specifically the June Auto Subaru BRZ from 2015. This engine is actually very similar in the way that it's put together as compared to that Neutron V8 Honda engine. But this time around it's not a Honda engine. It's actually a Kawasaki ZX12r engine. So sit back, relax, and get comfy because today I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about the 2.4 liter Synergy Auto V8 engine that's based on a Kawasaki motorcycle engine. Now, before we start this video, I would like to clarify that we are specifically looking at the 2.4 liter engine from Synergy Auto, which is the engine that was used in the June Auto Subaru BRZ. But Synergy offers a ton of other different little V8 engines, and by the looks of their website, which is sort of down for maintenance, it looks like they may have moved past the Kawasaki-based engines, and maybe they're using BMW S1000-based engines now, just based off their website that mentions S1000RR heads. So this engine itself is actually pretty simple on paper. It uses two ZX12R cylinder heads bolted up to one custom-made CNC machined 6060 T6 billet aluminum block. It's configured as a 90-degree V8, which normally would take up a massive amount of space, but considering the final displacement is just 2.4 liters, the engine itself is actually quite small. Understandably, the crankshaft is custom made, as it has twice as many pistons to deal with as compared to the standard ZX12R crankshaft. And because the standard ZX12R crankshaft is a flat plane crank, that carries over to this engine as well. And for those who didn't already know, the flat plane crankshaft uses 180-degree configuration where opposing rod journals are opposite of each other instead of 90 degrees from each other like they would be on a cross-plane crankshaft. When one piston is at top dead center, the opposing piston is at bottom dead center. This design usually results in a lighter rotating assembly and less counterweight is needed to balance the crankshaft. That takes us up from the rotating assembly, where we have forged connecting rods and forged pistons. Everything is held together with ARP bolts, and keeping everything well lubricated is a 5-stage dry pump system with a separate oil tank, and it's all topped off with 8 individual throttle bodies. That all equals out to 367 horsepower at 10,600 RPM and 200 pound-feet of torque at 8,000 RPM, with the red line all the way up at 11,600 RPM. Before I get into why Synergy offers this engine and why they bothered building something like this, I'll play a couple of sound clips so you can see just how crazy this tiny little V8 sounds. As a company, Synergy does a lot of things, from engine design and development, simulation, engine testing, part prototyping, and a lot more. Sure, they're not a massive powerhouse of a company, but they're incredibly smart and very good at the things that they do. The engines that they develop are pretty much all designed for motorsports. They're not like Toyota or Honda, who's focused on designing cheap engines that last a really long time. Synergy's focus is on lightweight engines that produce a ton of power. And when I say that their engines are lightweight, I really mean it. In the June BRZ that features the ZX12R based engine, that engine swap ultimately saved them 66 pounds as compared to the FA20 that was originally in the BRZ, on top of improving the center of gravity even further. So not only is it lighter than the FA20, but it also produces nearly twice the power, all without the need for forced induction. The ZX12R based engine was initially developed for midget car speedway racing in New Zealand, where Synergy is based. But they always wanted to drop it into a street car because, well, why not? And that's actually where the June Auto BRZ comes into play, as Synergy actually developed a full package specifically for that platform. although it's incredibly expensive at around $70,000. But to be fair, that's not that bad for a custom engine, which bolts right up to your stock transmission and isn't hard to get to work with all of your factory electronics. What I find particularly interesting with this engine is the fact that it uses two ZX12R cylinder heads, but they're not modified for reverse flow. And what I mean by this is that if Synergy put both cylinder heads facing forward with the cam gear up front, one head would have the exhaust in the V of the engine and one head wouldn't. To get around this, they actually mount one of the heads backwards, at least as far as I can tell with the ZX12R engine. The whole reason for doing this is eliminating the need for proprietary cylinder heads, which makes the engine cheaper to manufacture and allows the end user to buy more OEM parts when it comes time for repairs. And this is actually the same thing that Craig from Neutron Engines is doing with his Honda-based V8 engine. And he's doing it for the exact same reason, which is eliminating as many custom parts as possible to reduce the overall cost of the engine and make it easier for the end user to source parts if and when needed. For most of this video, we were looking at the June Auto car, but I'd also like to highlight that there are other BRZs with Synergy engines, and some of them are even more powerful. The video we're showing here is actually a 3-liter Synergy V8 rather than the 2.4 liter, and it outputs insane 515 horsepower naturally aspirated. Of course, a high revving, low displacement, flat plane crank V8 does have some drawbacks, most notably a major lack of low end power. You have to remember that horsepower is just a function of torque times RPM. So if your engine revs super high, you can make more peak power, but you'll still be missing power on the low end. And for a track car, this isn't much of an issue because the car stays at pretty high RPMs on the track. But for a street car, it can be a little annoying, as you'll have to downshift pretty much anytime you want to quickly accelerate, especially compared to the newer turbocharged engines like a Ford EcoBoost, which have a crazy amount of low-end torque. Overall though, I think this Synergy engine is incredibly interesting and very cool. And it's a little specific in the sense that it's super expensive and not exactly ideal for a street car, but it's crazy what a small V8 can do when paired with motorcycle engine technology and design. So what do you guys think of this crazy little engine? Do you think it'd be a good engine swap for your car? Sure, you know, it's like 50 to 70 grand, but it's pretty sweet. Hardly anyone out there has them, so you definitely at least have the coolest car at your local car show or track meet or whatever. If not this engine, what other custom non-OEM engines do you guys really like and you would like to see videos on later? Drop a comment down below letting me know. While you're down there, smash the thumbs up button because it really helps me out. Get subscribed so you don't miss out on future videos, and check out some of the other videos on the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one.